Guys, what's up? It is just Nick today. Tyler is on vacation. But today I am joined by Brad Robinson from Bradford Custom Homes and Remodeling. He actually attended our Contractor Coalition Summit event in Vegas at the right. It's basically a pre-IBS show, but he has not made it to a full summit. But if you guys want to join the full summit, make sure you sign up. We are literally going, like, this is, I think, next week when this recording comes out. You're going to miss out on the hotel block, but I do have a discount code. Shoot me a DM at Nick Schiffer on Instagram. I'll get you the discount code and hope to see you in Boston. And if you can't make that, we do have the link to sign up for Las Vegas. But Brad is really cool. He wants to talk about marketing and social and paid social and how he leverages it and how he measures ROI and how he tests ads. And all of this sounds like this could fly over someone's head, but we're gonna dumb this down for you and walk through his process, talk about how, we leverage not only social, but how we leverage AI in this space, and give you some of the key points that you can take away and implement into your company. Because as Brad says in this podcast, you should always be selling, not just when you need to. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into it. Before we do, quick message. This podcast is brought to you by a couple of our sponsors, like Andersen Windows. Have you heard about the retractable patio door screens from Andersen? Crafted to seamlessly blend with Andersen patio doors, the screen is more than just an accessory, it's a statement piece. Elevate your customers' outdoor experience with premium die-cast metal hardware and high-end weather retention performance, ensuring lasting performance year after year. Choose from 11 different colors to perfectly match any aesthetic. These screens are compatible with doors manufactured from 1990 to the present, so upgrading a space has never been easier. Don't just settle for any screen. Impress with Andersen's retractable screen and redefine outdoor living. To learn more, visit andersenwindows.com. This podcast is also brought to you by Buildertrend. A common goal most builders have is to scale their business. What a lot of them don't realize is achieving growth on their own is difficult and it also takes time. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret that most successful builders keep to themselves. You need to invest in technology if you want to grow fast and still have a life. Take it from Tyler Farrell, owner of Kilowind Construction, who went from building just one home per year to unlimited growth once he started using Buildertrend. Or Greg Hassler, owner of Hassler Homes, who brings in over $10 million in work per year thanks to their software. If you're ready to unlock your potential like these industry giants, visit buildertrend.com/MC demo to see how Buildertrend can transform your business. This podcast is also brought to you by Velux. Homeowners trust you to get their projects done and do them well, so it always helps when other industry experts have your back. For over 80 years, Velux has been solely focused on developing innovative skylights trusted around the world. They've established themselves as the market leader in skylights by transforming spaces with natural light and fresh air. Check out veluxusa.com/remodeler to find out how Velux brand can back your next build. Also, real quick, I got a pretty cool project coming up that we're going to be using two Velux skylights on. And they've been great to work with. And actually, we're able to help resolve some of the egress issues that we're having in that build. So just another shout out to them. They've been great from the technical side, and frankly, can't wait to get their product on and share with you guys, of course, through all of our social. What's new with you?
Bro, we got some fun stuff right now.
Dude, I read through your email and I'm like, if this is what Brad wants to talk about, then I'm literally just going to allow him to talk and I'm not going to say a word, which I know isn't true because I interrupt people and I talk a shitload. But before we get into all of that, what's on your mind? You just said you got a bunch of cool stuff. So what's the cool stuff?
I'm just trying to keep up with guys like you right now who are doing projects that are exciting, and trying to stay away from the ones that put me to sleep. I mean, I love building houses, don't get me wrong, but I gotta say, these days, it's not like I'm in the field often, and I'm not
Yeah.
spending a significant amount of time walking around projects other than QCing and just making sure that our team is building it to the way that it was designed. But
Yeah.
we're taking a different approach and trying to differentiate in a way that positions us in the way that we really want to be seen, which is an expert. And to do
Hmm.
that, we're going the high performance route. So uh, there's I'm sure you've heard of ICF, right? So
Yeah.
we're taking off and doing a massive ICF project right now. It's 9,500 heated and cooled. Um, it's a big boy. It's got a lot of overhang too. So I think all said and done, it's 13,000 covered,
Damn.
and it's a beautiful resort style site map. So it's gonna be really cool
What? Why is high performance the route that you want to focus on?
because I feel like you can either. Well, let me back up. I feel like high performance positions you to speak on facts and not on intangibles that
Mm,
can't be measured. So, like we did a house, traditional stick frame. We made a couple of adjustments and modified it, and we blew a 0.89 on that house. And I'm like,
yeah.
you don't have to do much. And no aero
Hmm.
barrier. We didn't force anything through it once we closed it up. I think we framed it right. I think we sealed it right. I think we did exactly what we wanted to do, and we accomplished a goal that, even below what we set. I mean, we wanted to shoot like a 1.5. So shooting a
Yeah.
0.89 for us was like, all right, look, you can do this, and you don't have to leave a customer wondering whether or not how that house is performing, because just so many people choose not to concern themselves or market themselves in a way that positions them as the authority on
Yeah.
that. And so we're just taking that approach to it. And I think that that's going to help us achieve the price point that we're going for. Because, I mean, I don't want to build $21 million houses a year. I don't want to build even 10 $2 million
Yeah.
houses a year. I would just much rather have 5 really amazing projects a year.
It's interesting. Like the high performance route, I find interesting because like we certainly play in that space, but it's not our prior. It's not my priority. I like it's it's something that I want to build high performance homes. I want to make conscious decisions that net a really high quality home, but it's just not the focus, especially from a marketing perspective. It's more of, I look at it as like more of the byproduct of being intentional in the way we build. Because in my experience, the people that are, from a client's perspective, that are super focused on high performance are not typically in the right budget range. They're looking to build a really high performance home, but they will sacrifice quite literally everything to get there. And it's like, okay, well, this this went from a really cool project to now an overly simplified, reduced, very kind of diluted product. And I think that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't speak to me. Where I think that's why I look at it as like a byproduct. I'm so focused on design, and it is the intangible things. It's for me, it's like the storytelling as to why we chose a particular material, and quite literally envisioning how someone's going to interact with it, which frankly, like, to a lot of people sounds ridiculous. And but that's fine. That's just, that's how I've kind of decided to position us in terms of what we want to build. So that's why I asked the question, like, why is that a priority? And I understand, like, there's definitely other clients out there that are like, hey, I want high performance. I also want to build a 9,500 square foot home with massive overhangs and resort style. That's awesome. Like, to be able to find those clients, like, I'm with you. Try to do uh, less projects, higher quality product. projects?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that whole piece about marketing and why we've chosen to go that way is like really the whole, what I kind of teed up really to talk about, because I don't think we do anything textbook. I don't think we operate this
Yeah.
business textbook. I think that it comes from a lot of real world experience and then just learnings, because we test and learn every day. And, one of the things that I
Mhm.
admire a lot about the way that you're running your business is that you're stepping outside of a lot of what you typically see in,
Mhm.
the way that construction companies market themselves. And you're really putting a focus on showcasing those details and, glorifying and hyping up what actually can be. And I think that's inspiring as a builder. I see that, um, and look at it and go, wow, that's for us. I would love to be able to design a house in the way that you've been able to get some of these across. And it's cool. It's a cool thing. I think that for builders to step out there, I mean, we've typically had to look out west to see that. I think I look
Mhm.
at Boswell Builders, like they're one of the North Stars of
Yeah.
builders that I've looked at and said, wow, that's my future.
Mhm.
My wife moved here from Atlanta, or moved to Atlanta from Newport Beach. So I spent a significant amount of time in Southern California in Newport and watching 60, 80, $100 million builds go up off Balboa. And it's like, not in Balboa, but off. But it's just like, oh
Mhm.
my God, can you imagine building one of those? And that's where my mind goes to. It's like, I want to get to that place. And so in order for me to do that, I'm going to have to learn how to conquer all types of building. And if getting to a place where I have multiple $4 to $10 million builds going on at any one given time,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to position myself as the predominant expert in my
Mhm.
marketplace. Like, I'm going to have to do that somehow. So we're shifting, we're evolving, we're changing, and so and we're our
Yeah.
marketing needs and our marketing concerns are changing too. So
It's funny. I think, you know, I've ran our social media, like the NS Builders account, forever. And, you know, just recently I had a handful of my peers out here. They did a SWOT analysis on the company, and part of it was they had to tour some of our projects, and they toured our recently completed Needham uh, project with Steve Teak. And they're walking around, and Joe from Cardinal Crest goes, "Nick, I quite literally saw every photo and video of you building this house. I've not seen one photo of this house done, and it's beautiful." And I he was like, he was dead right. I was like, I don't know what it is. I just got to a point where I was on to the next, and I never really like stepped back and was like, I need a show. Like, God, like, who knows, like, how many people were following that build, like, every day as I'm posting about it, right? And then never to see the completion, like, that would be the worst show on TV. Like, imagine just watching, like, the whole thing and then just not seeing the final reveal. And I had this light bulb moment. I'm like, "Holy shit," like, I never finished the job. I never finished the whole marketing effort. And we I literally emailed the client that week. I was like, "Hey, I have two photographers and a videographer coming in 3 weeks. Can we shoot the house?" And they were like, "Yeah, no problem." And we shot it, and I've shared some of the photos online. And immediately a client reached out. "Hey, I just saw that Needham project all completed. I want to talk about building." And I'm like, "Son of a bitch, Joe." I'm like, "You were right."
they've been waiting on you to move
And
that bus for months.
right. And but you're talking about like evolving and changing your marketing effort and being the expert. Like, I've been so focused on being the expert that, in that scenario, it's like I almost forgot about the traditional, just, hey, look what we've completed, not like, look what we're doing, look what we've done. Um but yeah, it's interesting. And I think, because I've followed you for a bit, and I've seen how you've evolved and changed as a company. And and just you're after the same thing that I'm after. It's, the higher quality projects, the projects that demand a greater attention to detail in some facet. But what's interesting is, because I've been in Newport Beach too, and I've seen some of these $100 million builds. And there's part of me that agrees with you that's like, man, that would be cool. That would be my future. And um, the other part of me is like, I kind of don't want $100 million at my disposal. I kind of want to be told like, build the coolest house you can for $1 million and see what we come up with. And I think because I think I've said this a lot is constraint breeds creativity. And I think about, time and money are the two biggest constraints usually, and it's, thinking about creative approaches to work within one of them. And we're doing a smaller one right now that is, you know, what I would consider a less than ideal budget for a project, but it's a smaller home, and I mean, it's super freaking cool. And it's going to be like, it will be a portfolio piece. It will be one of those projects. Like it'll be a project that will be of similar stature, um, from a publication standpoint as White Oak will be, but at a fraction of the cost and size.
That's cool. Yeah. Do you ever think like at some point when the universe decided to put you in the builder portal that you should have also like there's another Nick Schiffer out there that's an architect or a designer because like
Dude, I've been asked this question a, a half a dozen times in the last couple of months. Even by my wife. Meg was like, "Do you think you would have been would you have been an architect?" And I don't think I would. I actually don't think I'd be a good architect because I I am not someone. If you sat me down at a table and said, "Draw your ideal house," like I wouldn't know where to start. Like I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be like, I've always been so impressed by an architect, you know, being able to sit down with a blank piece of paper and come up with, an iteration of what that home once will be. Now, like, I've actually seen behind the curtain of what that actually takes, especially working with Vincent and of possible, like, that's quite literally thousands and thousands of sketches. And it's a big reason his approach is very structured in the sense that he won't even sketch something until he has the whole topo and the whole site, like all the zoning, setbacks, everything, like on a piece of paper saying, all right, this is where you're allowed to build something. Which I appreciate because I think if I don't have, again, going back to constraint, if I don't have a constraint, I'm just going to draw this big square box and then try to figure out what I want to do with it. Um, so, but for me, the little details and like the standard details on how things come together and interact with one another, that's where I think I'm stronger. Because I think, again, going, I said earlier, I think about the way someone interacts with the space, in the end result. Oftentimes when I'm walking a job, I'm thinking about the way things are photographed, or the way someone's gonna come around the corner and see something. Um, as silly as like lining up an outlet underneath a window, which is, in a lot of ways like an elementary level detail, but people miss it, including myself. Like I've not caught every one, but it's that every time you have a detail, every time there's a materiality change, or like, and being mindful of how everything comes together, I think that's where I can tend to spend a bit of time uh, trying to perfect. Um, I don't know, because I'm not, like, quite frankly, I'm probably not I wouldn't consider myself a great carpenter. I think I'm a good carpenter. I think I could get the job done. I could build a house, I'm gonna say by myself, but I could build a house, and I can execute finished carpentry, and I can build cabinetry, but it's not something like yourself. I've removed myself from the field and spend most of my time building a business and, you know, taking risks and doing stuff like this, where I'm trying to build a team and a life that allows us to, collectively build some amazing things. And I certainly know how to get from point A to point B. It's just, or point A to point Z, but it's the mess I create in that process that is what I look to my team to not clean up, but like, hey, this is how you're going to get from A to Z. Now do it, but do it better.
I think I was fortunate to not stumble into, but rather to build the team and my team in the way that I did, because I get to express my creativity through having an interior designer on staff and having
Mm-hmm.
an architect on staff. So, if I'm meeting with a client for the first time and they're giving me details that are important to them, a lot of times I'm documenting a lot of those early days conversations, because the first thing a client tells you is oftentimes the most important thing, right? One of the things that they've had on their mind the longest, and they couldn't wait to get it off their mind. So, you know, I try to capture that vision as tightly as I can. And, one of the other elements of our businesses is that we still do a decent amount of remodeling. And,
Mm-hmm.
while our remodeling projects are large scale these days, we don't really do anything small anymore. You know, my interior designer and my architect know exactly how I want things detailed.
Yeah.
I pretty much now it's prescription, right? Like, we don't
Mm-hmm.
do X, we don't do Y, we don't do Z. And, oftentimes it's never even making it past the client's, checklist at that point. It's just the way that we
I
do
th-
it here. Um,
and I think that you like there's a lot of value to that. It's not even just the outcome, but it's also the decision fatigue, and the consistency, like even products. Like I constantly think of house wrap and WRBs and like just that and like that has become brand synonymous with people. Like if I name a builder, you're gonna like immediately know what house wrap they use. It's just like it sticks in your
yeah,
mind, and it's one of those things where 15 years ago there was three options, and today there's 20 options, and then you get into this not fight, but it's like this conundrum of like which one should I use? It's like whatever one you want. It's like, well, which one's better? It's like better for what? Better in 0-degree temperature, better in 100-degree temperature, better for installing with a buddy, better than with installing by yourself. And that has been something that we've talked about internally, is like we're just making the decision. We are only using this. And that will be our SOP. And then someone's like, well, what if the architect specs something different, or what if we think there's a better, yeah, we can change it. Like, but our go-to is this. Like you can always challenge, you can always change it, but I don't want to have to ask the question every time we build. If 8 out of 10 times we use this, and the two other time the architect's like, I want to use this, or it makes more sense to use that, fine. We ask the question. Um, but it gives you the opportunity to build, again, a product that is exactly what you want on for the outcome.
yeah. And I mean, if you're going to warranty something for an extended period of time, you want to
Mhm.
understand or have familiarity with what you're hanging on a wall or what water heater you're using. I mean, we had that very
Right.
same issue when, we joined CBUSA. We were okay. We want to play ball. We want to participate, so it's like, we know that Renai is the national contract. So let's move away from Navian and let's go Renai. And doing that was kind of an initial shock to the system, right? Because we had been installing Navian at the time. And so all the things that come along with how you install that particular system versus the new system, it took some time to flesh out. But now, when we close out a job and the homeowner's going through orientation and they're getting their closeout documents and they're getting their homeowner book, you know, it's a hell of a lot easier for my team to put that book together, knowing, because it's generally going to be the same thing
Mhm.
over and over and over again. Like, so those
Right.
efficiencies, the efficiencies in operating the business, and the team just knows. It's like, why do we wear Nike uniforms? Like, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Mhm.
we wear Nike uniforms. We know how they look and perform on the field. That's just what we wear. Now, like, I'm
Mhm.
making a sports reference, but you get the drift, right? It's like, we do things because it benefits our business and it streamlines, and because we don't have, yeah, we build a very, very custom house and we allow our homeowners to make a lot of those decisions. But, you can bet we're going to tell them why we choose to use who we use. And 99% of the time, they came to us. They trust us. They're going to use the product that we specify, regardless of whatever the architect says.
Mm-hmm. It, you know, the reality of why our industry is so complicated is what you just talked about. Is there's so many decisions that need to be made, and they get made so quickly, and they don't get documented. And the lack of documenting that decision feels so minor in that moment, but then as you progress through the project and you're constantly referencing like what was that faucet we spec'd, and then you get to the end of the job, it's like, hey, we're trying to put together an O&M. What was that faucet we spec'd? And then the client calls and says, hey, my faucet won't stop spraying water all over my bathroom, and someone's like, what was that faucet we spec'd? It's it they That process it's yet to be perfected, in my opinion, and it's something that we're very much in the middle of trying to figure out a streamlined process, of just like as something is selected, it needs to go into this. I'm just gonna say this thing, and from there it just lives there, and it automatically will be like, all right, this belongs in the O&M in this section. It belongs in the submittals under this section. It belongs in Dropbox, like just where it needs to be, when so there's no question of tracking that down. But yeah, it's I love the fact that you referenced the polos, and I'm gonna have to look at Nike because I haven't tried the
I,
Nikes.
you know, I'm wrong. I stole it from Brad. He wears,
Uh-oh.
what is it?
Not
Uh,
tailor made.
Travis
Travis Matthew.
Matthews. Yeah. I just like the
Are
way
those Travis Matthews?
yeah, I'm not a big fan of like having a lot of logos. I want mine to be prominent. So it has one little one
Same.
here, and then I think there's
Yep.
one little one there, and that's perfect. So I don't,
All right. I'm gonna need the model. I might need the model number of that because it looks good. But it's I probably have 40 black polos in my office, and I end up with these, which I'm not even gonna tell you the name because they stopped making them. But now I have new guys, and they don't. I can't order them. So I for the last year, I've been basically like, hey, select the black shirts you want, and I'll just have them printed.
I love the fit of these.
And
I mean, my arms are not as big as yours. So, I mean, you're going to have to test and learn, but I'll bring one up for the celebrity shootout. So, and
all
you can
right,
try one on.
that works. But it is like, just I was thinking about that today because I had to order T-shirts because we ran out, and I was like, I still need to order new polos for everyone because everyone wants polos, and I'm like, I can't even, like, I can't get to the brain power of doing it. And then what happens is I order these like off-brand, like Instagram, clothing companies that fit really well on me. And then I get them, and everyone's like, yeah, but they don't make my size, or I look like an idiot in this shirt because it's too tight on me. Or I'm like, and then I just get to the point where like, just order whatever you want. Like you find a shirt that works as long as it's black, and I'll just have the minimum's 12, and you get 12 shirts, and I'll just have them embroidered for you, which is silly. But I'm like, at the end of the day, like, all I care about is that everyone is in the black shirt with white lettering, um, with the least amount of logos. And yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, we're not sponsored by any of these people. All of our winter gear is all North Face. They're great jackets. They're awesome, but they're logoed like crazy.
Yep.
And I'm like, and my wife said it last year. She goes, Nick, for someone that doesn't like wearing logos, you got like 6 logos on this thing. And ever since she said it, I'm like, shit.
I'd have to
Like,
ask
back to the drawing board.
marketing, but we got some last year for because we typically do a fall run and we typically give out new winter gear right as we're going into cold, and our cold season doesn't really snap here until end of October. So a
Mm,
little different than where you are. But uh, last year, the ones that we had made were amazing. And I want to say they were North Face that were
mm.
intended to be branded. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't
Oh, they had the black stitching on
I
black.
think that was what it
I've seen.
was.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
seen those.
That
Yeah.
was good.
Um, it's just fun. Last point on merch. I'm also notorious. I'll order t-shirts like in the beginning of winter, and I'll order sweatshirts at the end of winter, and I never time it appropriately.
It sounds like you're
And
getting
it's
a
like,
deal on them
sorry,
though.
yeah. I got boxes out, and the other problem is I modify. I've changed our logo. I say Drew, who works on my creative at Slash, him and I basically modify the logo like every 6 months. They're minor. I feel like I'm like Facebook, like I'm changing like the tiny little detail, and it's more Drew. Like he's constantly refining what we look like, but it's also been this constant deduction of things. So we've gotten rid of you know additional word marks and slogans and so on and so forth. And now, so I have all of these T-shirts that I'm like, I don't want you wearing those anymore. Like that was so 2023. Like and then they show up and I'm like, I really need you guys to wear the new shirts.
I wanted
Like we don't have enough. I'm like,
I'm not even going to
God.
admit how much we've spent in branded gear because
Oh,
you're pretty much the same way we are. Like we pay close attention. Like it matters. I
mhm.
think it matters
Yeah,
greatly. And I mean, I don't know. You probably only saw a couple of our team there last year. I've got more team coming this year at IBS, but I think the fall run that we have this year is going to be the coolest we've had yet. But
yeah,
it's the little things, man. It's the details. It matters. It matters a lot.
totally. It's at some point I'm just like, all right, can we just leave the detail right where it is? Because it's great. But Drew's amazing. Like I love Drew, and he's we call him our brand guardian, but he's I I don't think he'd admit to doing this on purpose, but every time I'm on a Zoom with him, he'll like switch screen real quick, and I'm like, what was that? He goes, oh, it's just something I'm working on in the background. I'm like, okay, well, it looked really fucking cool, so show me it. And then he switches back, and I'm like, what's this? He goes, I'm modifying the logo, and then he walks me through it. I'm like, change everything now.
Get it all blasted out. Everybody's in
Yeah,
there
just
for
get it
2 weeks.
all done. Yeah. And it's like, and then we print it, and my team's like, I don't understand what's different. I'm like, the letters are, a pixel closer together. They're like, cool, Nick. Like, don't you have other things to worry about? I'm like, yeah, I do.
You're probably an early adopter of technology as well, right? I
Yeah,
was
for sure. I think that, and as a company, I push it pretty hard. Um, I mean, I've talked about AI a lot on this podcast, but like that's been just a game changer for me specifically. Like it's a tab I literally have open all day every day. And going back to product data and O&M, it's like, you know, we were putting together, the maintenance manual for appliances. So I literally downloaded all of the appliance specs. I dropped them in chat and I was like, review all of these appliance specifications and tell me the things I need to do to maintain them and maintain warranty. And it's like 15 seconds later, here's the 10 things you need to do. I'm like, that just saved, like, that's 97 pages long that had probably fine print in it that told me I had to change the filter every, 23 and a half days. And here it is, right? Number two on the list.
dude, that's so cool.
So I think that I said to my team, like, it seems foolish because people like you like will be in Slack and someone will be like, hey, we really need to put together an SOP for this. And I'll just copy and paste from AI. And they're like, there's Nick with his AI. I'm like, tell me I'm wrong. Like, tell me that like and it's kind of a joke, but everyone's understanding that this is an opportunity for us to not only stay ahead but get way ahead of what we consider our competition. And how do we continue to leverage this in a way where I've been messing with like automation, email automation. I find that to be super interesting. um Conditional questioning, I talked about that before. I don't know if it's live on the site, but essentially, rather than filling out a contact form, there'll be a conditional questioning form. And basically just asks you, like, what's your name? Oh, hey, Brad, nice to meet you. So what are you trying to do? And based on what you answer, it will guide you down a certain path. And I have it built, I'd say 60-70% right now where it works. But the intent is you'll get to the end and know whether you're qualified or not. And I sure listen. There's probably a handful of people listening to this right now, like, yeah, but you're removing the human interaction. I'm not. What I'm doing is I'm saving them time, and that's the way I phrase it. It's like you're gonna just answer a handful of questions, and it's gonna be the same questions that I'm gonna ask you on the phone. And if you get to the end and you feel as though you're disqualified but still want to talk to me, sure, go ahead. We can hop on a call. I'm going to ask you the same questions. But I'm already going to know that your budget's not big enough. So if we're on the phone and you don't have the budget, what's the play here?
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, people will take as much time as you give them. And for people who are just starting out in the journey to build a house and they have absolutely no idea which way is up, they will take all the time you
mhm.
give them. And the reality of
Yeah.
it is that our time is finite. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I own 5 businesses, and I
Mhm.
just don't have the time to help everyone as much as I want to be.
Right.
And that's not a selfish statement. Like if I could give all of these people this time, I would be happy to do it. But I just don't.
Right.
And the reality is like, and look, conditional is amazing. And I don't know if you're using it in your paid social yet, but it's
No.
beneficial tremendously there, I think. And I think that there's so many uses and applications to move people through the digital marketing play on that, right? So
Yeah.
it's great there. We've not integrated it into more of a chat platform on our website yet. I mean, yes, we are getting many leads to our website, but we're filtering those out the traditional way at this point.
Yeah.
But I look at it this way, where AI is coming into play for us is like, let's say I've got a sales admin, and that sales admin is really the first point of filter. They're doing all the qualification at that point, right? We are
Mhm.
also trying to get to the lowest common denominator with that particular lead, and then we will move it into one of two buckets, right? Like, did it fall into the Bradford category? If not, what was it really a remodeling centric lead? And does it have anything to do with maybe an exterior renovation? If so, then we will automatically refer that to our sister company, Lake City
Mhm.
Exteriors, to go live over there, and then we'll capture that lead from this point of generation, right? So we're
Right.
repurposing and rebranding those leads for other companies that we own. So I'm not saying
Mhm.
we're a marketing house. That's not what we do. There's plenty of those out there, but because we own other
Mhm.
businesses in adjacent construction industry, or commercial and in service space, we can do that a little bit. And because of the
Mhm.
plentiful amount of leads that we're getting, we just kind of repurpose those, repackage them, and move them into one of those other businesses, and we benefit from it from that, in that way. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, but the conditional piece is huge, and the AI piece is huge. I'll admit, all of my job descriptions, they've been written by
Yeah.
AI. Why not? I mean, they're amazing. I can craft them exactly the way that I want them and the tone that I want to them. I can reference
Mhm.
books that I like and have them bring in values that I like from those things. And, Unreasonable Hospitality is one that we're doing right now. So I know that's a book that you've recommended in the past, and it's been great for our team. We do a book club here, so it's like, you know, it's just
Cool.
something that we talk about at the production meeting. We'll say, hey, just give us one point that you read out of the last two chapters, and so I'm kind of like beginning to leverage a lot of that information that we're taking from that culture building exercise, move those into those documents. But AI makes it so fast; it just doesn't make a lot of sense to spend more time on it and to do it any differently.
Hey guys, quick break. We'll get back to talking to Brad in just a second, but I need you guys to head over to moderncraftsman.co, co, not com, .co. And when you get there, you're gonna get a pop up that allows you to sign up for our newsletter. If you don't see it, scroll all the way down the bottom, join our newsletter, first name, email address. That's gonna keep you in the loop with new episodes. That's going to give you some behind the scenes content, some product release, early release stuff, give you guys the information that we're developing. And we have an awesome pre-construction agreement that you can download for free, as well as a labor burden calculator, so you can accurately determine how much your labor costs. At the very top, under extras, You go over there, you can click on those. Both of those you can download. They're completely free. This used to only be available to people that attended our summit or paid for these separately, but we have them up for free. Speaking of the summit, if you can get there, I think you have to sign up now because I believe it is, well, you may have missed it by the time this recording goes live. And if you did, then make sure you sign up for Las Vegas. We'll be at the IBS International Builder Show hosting a pre-show event. Back to talking to Brad. I think a lot of people have an issue with it because they don't understand. I mean, I built a whole career document, which is every single job description, the roles, responsibilities, and then the things that you would need to accomplish in order to be considered for the next role up. And, I used AI for that, but it literally took me 3 days to put that document together. Because it wasn't like, hey, give me a career document with every single role and the things like it was this back and forth conversation of, all right, modify this, exactly what you said, like take more cues from, this particular book, or take, be more specific about the skills they need from a carpentry, like whatever it was. But what it's doing is it's getting, I'm finding that as it has learned my tone and what's important to me, it's able to get my thoughts out on, quote unquote paper a lot faster. And then from there, I'm just I'm organizing it and maybe making a few modifications and done. Like this isn't AI deciding what the job description is. This is AI organizing my thoughts in which I need the job description to have.
It's so awesome. I mean, I don't know how more people aren't amped up and charged about this, right? Like if I were thinking about how, the generation prior to us came through, they would have called McKinsey and said, I need a change management consultant to come into my business and spend 3 weeks and do all of this
Mm-hmm.
work. And I'm like, oh, for $100,000, they would do the task that you did in 3 days. It's like, you know,
Yeah. And it's the same thing. It's the romanticism of, doing it yourself. It's like, sure, man, like I could draft up this job description myself. And ultimately, I can tell you right now, it wouldn't be as good. It would have holes in it. It would have, you know, ambiguity. It wouldn't be this clearly communicated thing. And because I've done it, and my team's like, hey, Nick, that's not really in my job description, or hey, I don't really know if XYZ is supposed to be something I'm handling. Now I know it says that. I know what it says, and it's super clear. But it's just, the adoption. So that's why, going back to what you said, it's like, I'm just going to try to be an early adopter and get ahead of this. So it's a tool. It's like Buildertrend. It's like any program that you're using. It's not a replacement. It's a tool that should make you a more powerful company, a more powerful individual, especially in a world that demands more and more. Uh, and going back to, you said it earlier, is the opportunity to be in the field more, to be part of the team more, to do the stuff that you have fun doing. I don't have fun sitting down and crafting job descriptions. It's not my forte.
yeah. I mean, I want to be sizing up land deals. Like that's you had to prioritize your time. It's like what activity during my day allows me to maximize my output or earning potential. It's like I have to focus on those things. Everything else falls by the wayside, or it's handed off to
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's, got a fixed price attached to the hours that they're going to perform against the task. It's just that's the way that it goes, right? So,
Yeah.
with a finite amount of it, I'm going to lever every tool I can.
Yeah.
So,
Brett, I think did you say you get 100 leads a month?
sometimes more, and we've got our CPM down to where it almost feels ridiculous. You're down into the $5 and $6 range, per thousand views. And, the way that we're going about it is, we're trying to build a content machine where we're constantly putting out something, and then getting feedback on that, right? Like, we're trying new things and we're seeing that it's working. And when you're talking about digesting that many leads, you would think it's like, oh, this is going to be overwhelming. How do I manage 100 phone calls, or how am I going to manage 100 leads? Well, look, the reality of it is you might get 100 or more.
Mhm.
20, 30 of those are going to be anything worth a conversation. That's just the truth, right? So I'm not saying that the quality is all there, but you're going to gain some interest. You're going to find some people, and you just have to put them into two categories, right? Like, are they customers that have the attributes that you want, right? And is there intent? That's really the other piece, right? So you're kind of breaking those two things down. A lot of times you're catching people where they're, a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? It eludes me at this moment, but it's just, wait, I need to find that word because it's the exact word I want to use. Um, what do you when you do something spur of the moment? What's that word? Goodness,
Uh, um,
like
if you didn't ask
impulsive.
the,
Oh, it's impulsive. They see something. Jeez, edit that. A lot of times you're going to have people that are impulsive and click that button because they see
Mhm.
something very pretty and it's attractive to them, and they do want to know more, and they think in their mind like, yes, I can have that. And so they hit that button, they go through the questionnaire, they make it to the end to where they hit send, and that
Mhm.
happens a lot. And then you never hear from them again. I don't know if they've had 3 glasses of red wine or whatever it is, but sometimes that's just the nature of it, and that's what you're going to deal with.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it this way: I want to cast a wide net across the socio demographic marketplace that I'm looking into, and then I'm
Mhm.
trying to see if I can capture the ones who have a real project. And
So, how are you casting that wide net? Let's talk about that.
so I would say that we've gone almost completely organic in the way that we've tried to build a presence. But paid social is definitely one of the key drivers for generating that much attraction in a short period of time. So, you can do that in a lot of different ways. But, if you look across TikTok, Instagram, Meta, right, Facebook, you can do a heavy lift there. And I would tell you that we're not nearly as strong as we'd like to be yet, on LinkedIn. Although there's some competing theories there for how builders can use LinkedIn
Mhm.
to really find the right buyers. But um, you know, there's a big audience out there ready to be spoken to if you can filter down to the very prescriptive audience that you want to approach. And you're always going to have different buyers in different cycles in different phases of their journey, right? So it's just about trying to find the ones who are early enough to where you can get them involved in your process and nurture them to the point where they eventually develop into a customer.
So, your content, you're building a content machine, as you referenced earlier, and of just organic content. When you talk about paid social, are you taking like the day trading for attention by Vaynerchuk, like his approach of taking viral content and repurposing it for ads, or what? Like, what? Walk me through your paid social strategy.
Yeah, so I wish I could say we were as sophisticated as we want to be, but the truth is that we've been
Mhm.
doing this now on our own. Almost 2 years ago, the videographer for UGA's football team happened to be graduating, and I saw some content that he made, and it was gorgeous. It was, and I said, "Meet me out at a project, and let's go talk through this." And we started
Mhm.
developing some ideas around how to look at marketing to new construction, home building, remodeling, renovation. Like, how would that translate? And we just said, you know, I think what it has to be is there has to be an abundance of pretty material that also can showcase process. And then we
Mhm.
started just kind of working backwards on what does a buyer need to see to feel confident. And we just began to develop content around that idea and pushed it out. Now, we don't have we haven't amassed a very large following on our page, but if you look at who is seeing our content, we are in front of a lot of people. And that is what
Hmm.
I find matters the most. So we've gotten it out there. We go through sprints where we'll develop certain pieces of content, test and learn. So there's some A/B testing that's happening. We pick the winner, and then that piece of content will run strategically for 90 days, and we'll take and harvest what came in and measure it against the actual, what did we convert, and then we look at how to do that again, and then we create new pieces of content to do that. Now we're trying to accelerate that, and so we're in the process of bringing in a team that can actually help us do that, because we're really wanting to craft a message that helps us generate better quality leads. So as much as I say it's great to get 100 leads, I would much rather just have 10 really, really good ones. But,
Of course.
but,
Yeah.
but, there's always a but. There's a lot of customers who are not telling the truth all the time. And I'm not going to say all buyers are liars, but there's been plenty of conversations that have started in an unreasonable territory that have actually converted into a very
Yeah.
nice range. So I think it just comes down to, if you are going to catch that client who has the resources to build the house that they want to build, and it doesn't matter what the timing looks like, doesn't matter what the economy looks like, but now seems
Hmm.
like a good time as any to build a house, you can find them. They're out there.
Yeah. I mean, you're spot on. I have a friend of mine who he's actually in our Builder 20 group, and last meeting, someone had asked the question, was like, basically like posed to the guy, the older guys in the group, and said, "Hey, do you have any? We have a lot of young guys coming into the group. Do you have any advice?" And this guy raised his hand and he said, "Don't ever say no to a job." And I was like, I don't know about if I agree with that. And he went on to say, he goes, this guy reached out. This guy builds $8 million homes. Like that's what he does. Ski homes, 8 million plus. And he goes, a guy reached out and said, "Hey, I need someone to sand and refinish my floors." And he's like, "Not what I do," but he was like, "Whatever, I can help him out." Like, took care of it, and I forget. It was like maybe 2 years later. He called him. He goes, "Hey, I want to build a house." End up building like a $10 million house with him because he said yes to helping him. Not he wasn't like, oh, only because he said yes, but he was top of mind, right? Because hey, this guy comes in and helps, and I'd like to think I was more strategic with my example, but I had a client apparently reach out to me a couple years ago and about building a home, and I had rattled off some numbers over the phone, and that was the end of the conversation. We never chatted again. Nothing. And thankfully, after that phone call, they followed my social media, and they were like, they loved what we did, and things changed for them 5 years later financially, and they called and said, "Hey, you probably don't remember us," which truthfully I didn't. But we want to build a house with you, and we couldn't afford you then, and now we do. Now we can. And that to me, I was the realization. It's like, man, I need to be better about understanding that, and being aware that you know there's opportunity. Because it doesn't exist today doesn't mean it won't exist tomorrow.
It's very
Um,
much my track of thought, right? Like, so we have, when our customers go through the well, there's three funnels that we operate on, right? So the main funnel, which is where all the new inbound leads come, right? So we work them in a very specific way. And at the end of it, if we've assessed that they meet two out of the three criteria to be qualified as a good lead, they end up going into a long-term funnel where we continue to try to communicate with them, but in a much more elongated process, right? With a different messaging strategy where, in essence, we're trying to determine whether they're still there, right, on the other end, and they still are absorbing information. And then the other is how close are they actually to uh, maybe having some intent. So you can
mhm.
you can further develop and refine those, because if they had the majority of what you were looking for to start with, but the timing was bad, we just need to stick by them. And I'm not trying to build a funnel for today, tomorrow. We're very fortunate. We've been sold out of 24 for the last couple of months. We've been developing into
Mhm.
the second quarter of 25. We're not concerned with what's happening here today, tomorrow, next month. We're just seeking to try. We're, we're never in a fill the funnel kind of situation. But that doesn't
Mhm.
mean that we don't stop selling. We are always selling. And that's just maybe
Mhm.
what the old timer had to say. I very much embody that. I went and renovated a powder room and it turned into a mountain vacation rental home in Highlands, North Carolina, and then turned into a 6,000 square foot remodel and a very
Yeah.
beautiful home. You just never know where a client's going to be at. So my ears are always on. I'm always listening. And, if you do right by people, it works out.
What when you, going back to paid social, are you? Because I'll be honest. I don't do any paid social. I haven't done really any paid uh, online marketing for a very long time, until actually forever, and only recently started getting into the SEO space, of like page position and making sure our ranking was accurate. And I had outsourced that, and uh, thankfully my competition's done a poor job at doing their SEO, so it didn't take very long to show up on page one. But in terms of your social, like, where are you putting that money? Are you just simply boosting posts? Are you creating ads on Meta and building audiences for it? Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
w- that's what,
No,
yeah,
no
that's what you
boosting.
do.
Boosting doesn't work. Boosting
Yeah,
is basically like giving your money to the platform and saying, "Hey, learn with my dollars." Doesn't work.
yeah,
You want to
right.
be very prescriptive about what you're looking for, and we geo target heavily. So
Hmm.
we'll run three of the same campaign. Well, not the same campaign. We'll run three of the same pieces of content across very different geographic areas with the same audience type and
Hmm.
test and learn for which area of the city that particular ad is performing the best in. And then,
And you say test and learn. Are you just you're looking at the metrics
yeah,
and
yeah,
finding?
we're
Yeah.
looking for performance, right? Like what I want to
Mhm.
understand is, and not every ad that we run is a lead fill form generator, right? Like we're not
Mhm.
always trying to get a lead. We might be trying to convert back to the website and increase engagement with the website,
Mhm.
right? Like that might be one piece of the puzzle. It's not the be all end all, but leads are usually the driver of what we're trying to do. I mean, we want to populate information, just like why data companies are collecting information to use it for their reason. We're trying to harvest data so that we can look at building a pipeline for a very long period of time. Like I look at trying to market for today as the short term. That's a short viewpoint to stand from. So I just take it out a lot further, and I want to try to develop something. And I would rather nurture clients that I had conversations on early on, so that I can continue to educate them and build trust, and then I can bring into our system and our process because I can handle the architectural design, I can handle the interior design. And we are also trying to grow those pieces of our business, not for just the projects that we develop, but for other, projects that others are going to develop too. It's not
Mhm.
our number one priority in the organization, but we look at those as revenue centers of the business that need to perform as if they have their own P&L. We're not going to let one area like Daikon. You were talking to him about that, and I was like, I that resonated big time with me, and I was like, well, I don't want my construction business paying for the design business. Why do it at all?
Mhm.
Like, yes, sure, it reduces a lot of friction. Yes, sure, there's a value proposition to be sold to a client about how, you may prevent yourself from paying double markup on a designer who wants to, put profit on their product. Like we could talk about,
Yeah, but
so many.
at the end of the day, like, you're absolutely right. Like, at the end of the day, That's exactly what we try to sell ourselves on. We're reducing friction. It's a value add, blah, blah, blah. The reality is like, is it making money or is it not?
That's all that matters.
And it is. And I mean that, of course, like it's not everything is about making money, but when you're running a business, the something that is draining from the profit because it's a, a friction reducer, it kills you. And I've been there, and there's parts of my business right now that I'm looking at that's just it sounds good, and there might be an ROI in a couple years, but man, does it take a lot of bandwidth, and it takes a lot of resources from other areas that, quite frankly, I don't know if they're worth it. And but we sell ourselves on the end result. And you started this podcast by talking about how we have all these amazing projects and you were trying to keep up with people like me. And I laugh because, I've said it a couple times now. It's like, I can't wait to tell the real behind the scenes story. Like, hey, this is actually what went on for 10 years. And this is how, what it look this is what it looked like, but this is what it actually took. Because it's not it's a I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, we make all these decisions and constantly tell ourselves like this will pay off. And it's like early days of over investing in a project. It's like, yeah, but eventually I'll stop, giving stuff for free and I'll just make a bunch of money. It's like, yeah, but when do you do that? because
Yeah.
because so far every job I've done, no matter how big, it's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna give a bigger chunk, away to this job because I have to,
Uh,
and or because I want to, because they're a really good client. Um, and the reality is we're just, I'm in this cycle of just constantly, you know, giving away things for free. And it was truthfully after this SWAT recently that I sat down and I was like, I need to take a different look at all the parts and pieces that I have going on and understand what is helping the bottom line and what is hurting it. Because right now I'm clouded by the fact that the average across everything is good. And if I remove the stuff that's hurting it, the average is going to be a lot better.
Put it on a pen, like subcode your P&L and you'll think
Totally.
differently. Like I've always, maybe because I have some corporate experience, I was taught very early, win fast, lose fast.
Yep.
Get if you're going to lose quickly, and that's fine. It's
Hmm.
fine to lose. We all do it, right? In order to us to figure out how we're going to win and succeed, we have to take some L's, but do it and do it fast. And so that's just kind of the spirit of what my executive team. That's what we embody. We all have businesses, whether this is our only one or not, but and maybe that makes us a little different, right? We're entrepreneurs leading a building company. It's not the other way
Hmm.
around, right? Like I take a lot of pride in the fact that I am a builder, but it is not the title that I give myself primary, so um but it's interesting. I mean, we all do that same thing. I mean, and I definitely deputize our project management staff with making the right decision in each situation, but it is situational. And look, there are clients that get a little bit of levity and there are clients that do not. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah. It's it's interesting. I think that this industry is just filled with romantics in the process. And like you're talking about, you don't you don't give yourself the title of builder, but and maybe it is your corporate background that has kind of given you a different light on the business side. But I think that plays to a big advantage for you. And where, I think that I've worked from the other way. I've always been a builder, a carpenter, and was very romantic about the process, and still am. Um, but as time goes on, I look more and more strategically at the business. And you know, I think one of the faults I had in my business, and one of the mistakes I made early on, was that what I wasn't good at or what I wasn't interested in, I would delegate without understanding what that position needed to actually do. I was like, "Oh, you'll fill that position? Great. I know nothing about it. You go do it." And then, you know, next thing I know, it's someone's like, "Oh, what do they do?" I'm like, "I actually don't know. Are they doing a good job? I think so." And I had a friend of mine was like, "Nick, you're like, are you an idiot?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, arguably, yeah, but you know, they're like, you need like if that person doesn't if you don't know what that person's doing, then that person's doing nothing. And how are you even measuring the fact that that they're helping the business?" Um, and I know that's not like that's an extreme example, but the reality is like when you're growing and you're hiring, and it's going back to job descriptions, it's like there's a point where you can move too quickly, and next thing you know, you're super heavy on staff, and they're are they actually are they helping the overall profitability of the business, or are they slowly killing it? Are they
It's usually the
is it a
latter.
slow bleed?
It's usually the
Yeah,
latter. I mean, you just can't hire to fix problems. That's not the right way to do that either. But man,
right.
I've done that many times. I think I've tried to be more empathetic. I definitely embrace servant leadership,
Mhm,
philosophy. I had a really good boss at a company that I worked for who ended up developing over 600 lows. It was, that was what his claim to fame within Lowe's corporate. And he helped teach me really the guiding principles of servant leadership and helping remove roadblocks from the team. But in order for me to remove those roadblocks, it challenged me to learn everything they're doing. Um, you
mhm.
know, I had no way around it. I was forced to deal with it in the way that I wanted to lead my people. So it challenged me to not be able to be avoidant of those problems. And so just rather in dealing with it head on, it helped me kind of overcome some of those things. But everybody's got their own way of doing it. It's just I chose that, and everybody's got a different way of doing it.
Yeah. What do going back to marketing, because that's what I want to talk about. Are you are you doing this solo, or do you have a team helping you?
I'm fortunate. So that guy who is a really great videographer, he is also a pretty
Mhm,
good marketer, and he
mhm,
has been somebody that I've been able to throw any idea that I have against him, and he'll come back, and he's not afraid to tell me what I don't want to hear sometimes. And so you're
mhm,
like, okay, that's a little out there, right? But for me, I'm the guy that I will get out of the shower if I have a shower thought and write it down. I will text him on a Saturday night at midnight, and he doesn't yell at me. And I'll say, I have an idea for a reel, and I'll
mhm.
jot down the five main points. And then he knows I'm not expecting a response, but then he'll pick back
Yeah,
up with me on Monday and we'll go through it. So I don't know. I guess I kind of geek out on it a little bit. I'm like, what do I really want our audience to hear? What do I want our audience to know about us?
mhm,
How could I do this better? Like how could I just be one step ahead? You made a comment about, well, my market, it was really easy to get to first page in Google. Well, guess what? It won't be that easy in 18 months.
right.
It's
Yeah,
coming
right.
faster than any of us even know. And so all I can do is try to be one or two steps ahead of that, because I see builders getting smarter. I think that there are people that maybe see themselves as builders first. They romanticize that piece of it, but if they want to survive and remain a builder, they're going to have to do what's required in order to stay out, to stay in business. And I think that people are going to look to leverage digital in a more significant way over the next, 12 to 18 months.
Yeah. I think the fact that you have someone that is helping on the marketing, I have a lot of thoughts here. So, first off, I'm not someone that's gonna get out of the shower and jot my notes down, but I am someone that is texting my ideas in the Slack channel. Also not expecting a response, but typically will get a response. Um, but there's a part of me that I also what I struggle with is that sometimes I want them to run creative and stop with the. I'm bucketing this term generally, but like the micromanagement, where at the end of the day, it's like, well, Nick, like everyone has ideas. We should be kind of open for them. As I'm sitting here thinking about it, but I do genuinely love the creativity that my team just kind of brings to the table. Um, what I don't have is that marketing side where it's like I have content, we have a plethora of content, but the marketing is something just like yourself, like I geek out on. I got into the Facebook ad space, and I was, eyeballs deep in understanding audiences and, watching tutorials and hiring people and like that would walk me through it. And I thought it was super interesting. And I read this article, how I think a kid in college, he wanted to show how you could target an audience. And he read an ad that was designed to only show to his roommate. Like he was like, I can target one singular person, and he did it, and his roommate saw the ad, and that was like a light bulb moment for me. I'm like, this is super interesting, like to be able to like only show our ideal demographic and sociographic would be super interesting, but it's all been on my plate. And so it's this ebb and flow of attention, where it's like, yeah, I have the content, we're doing all the stuff, but I don't put any money behind it because, quite frankly, I saw my own ad on Facebook last week, not realizing that that ad was still running. It's been now running for it has to be at least 3 years.
Really?
Oh my, easy. And I have not logged in. Like I'm genuinely curious at this point, like how much money I've
I
spent
was
running
gonna
that
say,
ad.
what credit card is that hitting? I would want to know.
Let's see if I can pull it up,
That's
because
too funny.
I'll see if I can pull it while while we're on the podcast.
That's too funny.
Um,
I got
but
yelled
yeah,
at.
it just
My CFO yelled at me the other day. I didn't realize that we have a ad spend limit, right, intact for
Mhm.
each one, so it won't let you go over certain dollar amounts. But I
I think that's what we have.
yeah, well, my marketing manager's account got compromised with Facebook, and
Mhm,
when your account gets compromised, which is one reason why you might want to look at a marketing company that specializes in paid social specifically, because they have a relationship with Meta or Instagram. It is
mhm.
Meta really. So, but the challenge is that, have you ever tried to call Meta? It-
No.
no, you will never talk to anyone from Meta. It does not exist. So his account was compromised. Well, he had these two evergreen advertisements that would run and never stop. And they run in perpetuity. They bill the credit card in perpetuity. They just never stopped. Well, his account was compromised. He can't even access it. All of a sudden, it decides that it's just gonna they're gonna spike the ball on this thing. I don't know what happened, but Meta like billed our card like $3,500, like in 10 days. And my
Oof.
CFO's like, what is going on? And I'm like, I don't know, ask him. It's kind of like that moment for me, because I had no idea that that had happened. But yeah, so there are some pitfalls, right? If you do it, that's why I'm rather curious, like how much that thing charged you.
It I'm looking now, and man, I haven't been in here in so long. Um, I don't know if I can. How do I do? Here we go. September 2021 till October 20. That's not gonna work.
If you haven't been in
I
a
mean, it says
while, the
it's saying, yeah, it's basically saying like this is, oh, $10 a day budget.
see, you have been advertising. What are you talking about? Somebody's
I
already.
I have.
How many? Yeah, if it wasn't from a lead fill form, they've been directing somebody to your website or something. I don't know.
S- Something. This is I don't even. This is hilarious. This isn't even the ad I was looking for. This is not the ad. Oh god, I gotta clean this up. Yeah. Well, we'll find. We'll figure it out. Oh, wait a second. Here we go. This is what active one recommendation amount
You
spend.
just found
How do I?
$3,600 for a year right there, man.
I probably did. I want to. I'm trying to figure out how to do lifetime here because it's only showing spent this month.
It might
Let's
be if
see
you
here.
never change the campaign, you can see, but I'm not sure.
Hold on. I'm bear with me because I feel like
I don't know if we're doing builders any more good talking about this, because now they're going to be like, we never got our ads to stop. There's going to be a lot of builders in Meta next week trying to get their ads going, and then they're going to be like, I spent
$33.
$20,000.
All right, $3,300,
See,
and that is. It doesn't say how long. $5 daily. So apparently, I have one going $10 a day and one $5 a day.
I mean, dang, and it only spent 33. So I think it has some kind of like ad spend limits where it will.
It's it's been running since November 12th, 2022.
I love it.
God. All right. Well, now I know.
Just keep it running. You're doing something right.
Apparently, yeah. We'll
The
see. I
small
don't know if
price of
anything's coming through it.
fame.
You had well, I had another thing on my list here. Oh, CRM. So are you using a CR is it or are you or your marketer using a CRM?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we did admittedly have Buildertrend as our primary CRM for a long time, and then
Yeah.
and this is no slight to them, it's just wasn't on their product roadmap to try to develop a more sophisticated CRM with automations like we wanted, and so
Yeah, right.
we did 3 POCs. We put it out to market and did, we looked at all the heavy hitters like Salesforce, HubSpot, and then
Mhm.
we ended up, believe it or not, in Pipedrive, which I
Mm.
very much like. And only after spending some time with the bigger players did we realize, like, okay, in this particular software, I can really manipulate it to do exactly what I want, and then to incorporate all those automations that I really wanted it to do. So
Mhm.
we found that it's been amazing so far. HubSpot was a close second for sure, but
Yeah.
I'll say this, we use Zapier to bring the
Mhm.
leads in to Pipedrive. Pipedrive automates us to where we're engaged with that lead. And then we have multiple funnels that we're, moving those specific leads through. So it really helps us keep that information organized. And quite frankly, it's a task that we could in theory send offshore, but because of the nature of our business and we want to try to squeeze every bit out of every lead that we get, we keep that in house. And I don't think we're going to move away from that. But, for a lot of the guys that are out there that do want to, automate and offshore and, systematically take every part off their plate, you could, in
Mhm.
theory, do that. But implementation was super easy for the team. It's very
Mhm.
easy to use. So it didn't take a lot to lift this up and get it implemented into the organization, and then for us to find value. So, time to value was really quick for us.
Is that managing your Facebook ads as well, or is it taking it from the ad click?
Yeah, it takes it directly from the lead source and then it'll move it into the CRM, right? So Zapier is what
Mhm.
does that, right? But there are other tools that kind of bolt onto it that can go out and get different lead sources or communicate with back inside of those lead source channels directly through their messaging
Mhm.
platforms, so that that customer can stay native where they are, because that's typically the way
Yeah.
that they want it to be. Um,
Mhm.
that's just the nature of it. But we jump out front, and we go back to the human presence. Like, a lot of times they're like, I have customers ask me, like, so you're advertising, I saw your advertisement, that must mean that you're slow. And I'm like, no.
What?
Yeah, that's what I was like. I don't know how to
That's
answer
such an
this.
odd thing to say.
I said I don't know how to answer this. They were like, well, we never see builders advertising. Let we called 10 builders and we can't even get one to call us back. And I'm like, I don't know. We
Yeah.
just, we're professional. I don't know. That's the
Right.
only thing I can say. But the things you
Isn't
hear,
that weird how like that's the general consensus around builders? It's like good luck getting one to call you.
I mean,
And it's like, and when you do right by them, it's like, oh, you must be slow. That must you must suck.
that's,
It's
yeah,
like
that
all
was my,
every builder I know is way too busy for me. So if you can take me on, then someone must have said no to you.
yeah, God forbid you create a system, put people in seats, and then develop an entire business so that you can actually answer the phone. That seems so foreign. I
Hmm.
don't know, but
Yeah.
little sarcasm for the folks that don't answer their phone there. But no, it happens. I mean, I have a buddy out in Utah, and I know there's a lot of great builders in Utah. And he's like, Brad, I'm calling you because I really don't know what to do. I have called no less than 10 builders, and they just don't answer their phone. Voicemail is full. I'm
Mhm.
scared to even email because I know they're not going to answer that if they're not answering their phone. And I'm like, well, man, I really don't know. He's like, do you know anybody in Utah? I'm like, there's some good ones here. So, but it's funny. It's funny how that works.
I know. The so you said Zapier. I think it's Zapier.
Probably.
Only, and I'm not doing it to correct you, but I think because or I'm fairly certain because when you make one of those links, it's called a
Is
zap,
that?
unless it's called a zape. But I think it's zap. Um, but that like I find that super interesting, and anyone listening, this is where AI and chat comes into play. So I'll just give you like quick high level. I was talking about this conditional intake form for clients when they fill out a form. um I basically sat and I went into chat and I was like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I want to make a form that allows me to ask qualifying questions, and then based on the way they answer them, I want to rate those questions, like, basically good, better, best, and do that and then score each question. And then based on the score of the overall questions, I want to basically produce a score that tells me, is this a good, better, or best qualified lead?
Yeah.
That was the prompt in less words, right? That and I put it in there, and that's what I built. And I forget what I used for the conditional form. But essentially what it would do is someone will fill out this form and it will dump all the information into Google Sheets. And then Google Sheets has a formula already built in. Based on the response, it will rate that number. It will rate that response. And then based on the overall average of that number, it will say, is this a good, better, or best lead?
Yeah. You do three
And
bucket
then I
theory.
could, and
Yeah.
yeah, and then I can take a I can create a zap that will say when it's a best lead, it will say, "Hey, you just got a lead that is highly qualified," and it'll shoot me an email saying, "Nick, you got a lead.
Yeah.
Like you need to follow up with this one."
We have it
And
automatically
but this
label
is
it as VIP.
yeah, and this is but my point is like this is where AI can help, because it's like I'm sure a lot of people listening to us right now, it's like, dude, like this is above me. Like I can't, how am I going to dedicate the time? It's like this is how you can get through the understanding of this fairly quickly. Implementation is another thing, but you can ask, like, walk me through what I need to do step by step on how to set this up, and it will. And that's how I started it, because I was like, I just don't, I can't. I don't have someone, nor can I dedicate the time to hiring someone right now to do this, but I need to at least get the baseline down, um, and then you just build upon that.
I have to admit that my ops manager came out of the tech space, so it was helpful
Yeah.
for him to stand this up. But it was really easy for me to learn once he told me. So,
Right. Yeah.
but that's, I guess that was my shortcut. But we still went to a consultant who helped us do it because, and we even have more sophistications that we're working on. Lead scoring has been priority number one for us for a while, and most people don't understand the concept of lead scoring outside of just it sounds good and sexy. But it gives us the ability to look at how we want to approach that lead as we continuously nurture and then try to develop that into something that's tangible. So,
Well, I think it's the same with, when you talk about a sales script. And people are like, I don't need a script. It's like it's not a word for word script, and it is to make sure that you're getting the information out of the client and it's consistent, and you can, because yeah, everyone wants to everyone wants to just have a conversation and get a feel, is this a good fit or not? But there's key parts of qualifying a lead that you need to understand, or you're frankly wasting your time and the client's time. And that's the whole point of the script. And one of the things recently, like before I even started this whole conditional form thing, it was I need to understand what questions I need to ask, because every time I pick up the phone, I'm trying to get to those questions, and sometimes the client's a smooth talker, and next thing I know, I didn't get my questions answered, and now I'm going over to their house next Tuesday to meet them,
oh,
and it's like I don't even know if this is a good fit for me. And that's and ultimately, like, I sat down and worked with a couple of my builder buddies, and we compared notes and put together a script of like, all right, this is how these are the things I need to know to understand as to whether or not this is a good fit. And based on the way they answer, this is like, again, the product of what I put together. But it's I think there's a lot of value to this process, and really understanding your client and really getting right down to the fact that whether or not this is a good fit. But as you said, the old timer, which, to respect to my buddy, he's not that old of a guy.
sorry.
He's the first generation of two. No, not your fault. But and to what you have with these other businesses, it's like, just because they're not a good fit doesn't mean that you don't respond to them or follow up or put them in a different funnel, or be a resource and go finish their floors. Like, yeah, it's not a good fit, but hey, who knows? Let
Or
me let me
refer them.
vet this.
Refer them out to somebody else. They'll remember the good deed.
Right.
That
Right.
you want to still help people. You take that
100%.
approach to everyone you speak to. It's like, well, how can I serve you? How can I help you? It's just
Hmm.
a little bit of what you can give back. So
Yeah. Um, I had one other question I wanted to ask you, and I just lost my train of thought. Oh, and so one of the other things you mentioned on here is your ROI. So how are you measuring that ROI on all of this at all of the paid social and the lead intake? Is it something you're reporting, weekly? I mean, 100 leads is a lot. And I know they're not all qualified, but like, you have to have a process in place in order to understand, what's working, what's not.
yeah, I mean, they're all tagged. Obviously, we know what source they're coming from.
Hmm.
We know what campaign they're coming from, and we understand what the intent of the advertisement was. And then
Hmm.
we're grabbing that at the back end of the conversation and determining, okay, how many of these clients did we get on the phone, and how many did we convert? And that's really what's important for us. And so at first, when we started this, it was just we put social media as a category. Like that was what it
Hmm.
was. Like in the unsophisticated
Right.
days, it was like, hey, we got a lead in from social media. And it was like, okay, cool. Which one? Was it LinkedIn or was it Facebook? And then we started measuring against those two. And then it was like, okay, which campaign did it come from? And then we just continue
Hmm.
to develop it further and further. And what's great about, again, Pipedrive is that Zapier will bring that information in from the campaign data and allow us to circle up at the end when we have made that, when we did make that sale, or even if we did move them into one of the later stages. Now we can look at the attributes of what that person was and then further develop how we want to go back out and approach the next sprint. So that really is how it started, and that's how we got to where we are. And I would say we only stand to get better as we move
Hmm.
into the next phase, and as we bring bring a company on board to help us manage this moving forward. But I think
That's
internally
cool.
we've done amazing. And I would say for just a couple of guys trying to measure some data, I'll take it. Um, so I'm
It becomes a game. Like, I think that, like, you're gamifying it, right? Where it's now you're starting to make these little tweaks and, you know, for me, like, I don't wanna put the data together. I just wanna look at it. I tell my team, it's like, I just wanna have a dashboard. I wanna come to work, I wanna look at my dashboard and see where stuff is.
Yep.
Am I in the red? Am I in the black?
Single pane of
What's
glass.
going on over here? Yeah. And and it's been this conversation for years now. And frankly, I think we're close, but like you, it's like there's all these different parts and pieces. There's different companies, there's different parts of the company. In the building company alone, there's essentially kind of like four different funnels of revenue. And are all four profitable, or is one covering the other? And if that's the case, then again, it's a blended average that might look good, but if we get rid of that, then the average looks better. But ultimately, it's just having that ability to look and understand how those every adjustment changes that dashboard. You see something go up, it's like, oh, that worked. And I think that's the super interesting part, because otherwise you're making these decisions and running ads and running social or running your business and taking on a client, and you don't truly know it. Was that a good move or not? And it just becomes, I mean, I think I've beat the point, but without measuring it, it's just you're doing things thinking it's working.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part because, and I was so reluctant to talk to companies because they all offer different things, but what they're all offering you is essentially the same thing, is that they're going to get you to this next place in your business where you all of a sudden don't have to worry about where your next job's coming from, or you're going to have all the projects the types that you want to do, or whatever. They try to sell you on the
Mhm.
same things, but the reality of it is only right? You know how you're guiding your business, and you know what the aspirational customer type looks like, and you know the personality types you like to work with. You still
Mhm.
have to be the filter. There's no
Yeah.
place where you don't exist in the process. So I've just kind of come to grips with there will always be a part for me to play. And I hate saying that because I've always looked at every business that I run as, I need to be able to go wherever I want to go for any amount of time I want to go and not look back, because I've built a company that can stand on its own. But and and in a large way, if you get real close, your team will be able to succeed without you there. But I've always said this business was the one that is my true passion, in the sense that I feel the most fulfilled in building homes and working with customers in the capacity that I do. That I do want to always be a part of this, on a, even if it is on a daily basis. It drives me. It truly does. So if there's a romanticism in it all, that is it for me. Um,
Right.
you know, it's that element.
Brad, what event did you come to with us?
I met you last year at IBS, but I did the Contractor Coalition event.
Was it Huntington?
No, I didn't get to come. I was supposed to be at Huntington, didn't get to come. My boys are both active playing baseball. I got one boy who's in college playing college baseball, and so we have a pretty tight schedule. And
Yeah.
I just haven't had a chance to make it to any of the Contractor Coalition summits, but I did have a chance to come to the event that you guys held prior to IBS, and
Oh, that's what it was, right.
yeah, it
And it was this past year,
it
right?
was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Um,
great, man. I'll tell you, some of the connections that I made there have just been game changers in terms of like the way I view a lot of things now, and the way that those relationships have developed. It's truly a collaborative group of people, and I regret that I can't get to Boston. I know I told you it's like my wife's we have to go to Seattle for my wife's reunion, and it's like she will not let me miss. I will be a divorce if I don't go. She is the host, so
No, I get it.
well,
No, I get it. It's that's what I was gonna say. It's like everything you're talking about in the way that you're running your business and modifying your like the marketing, and that's a big part of what we do at the summit. But you hit the most important part is the network and the ability to kind of bounce these ideas off people. You know, obviously being a host, I have one viewpoint, but you know, every event that we've done, I've learned, just as much as I feel like I'm sharing, from people like yourself, where it's, I'm sitting here, I've been doing social media for my business for 10 years now. And I still love talking about it because it's ever evolving, and to hear what works for some people, I'll leave and go modify something. I'm gonna go change one of my Facebook ads tonight.
there we go.
Um, but the ability to network with such like-minded people at these events is what, you know, I think is the biggest benefit. Um, live, but then beyond that, I see like our Facebook group, like I see people still communicating with one another and sharing ideas and asking questions, and frankly, like I it for me, every event that I've ever attended outside of hosting, that has been my biggest takeaway. Um, I went to one 2 years ago, and I remember getting back, and my wife was like, "What'd you learn?" I was like, "Nothing." She was like, Then why'd you go?" I'm like, "Because I was around people that just were the same mindset, the same goals, different businesses, and I can pull up my phone and give them a call and run through something. Like, sure, I of course learned something, but that wasn't the key takeaway. The key takeaway was that there's a lot of people that are fighting the same fight, and it's good to know that I can lean on them as they can lean on me.
So true, man. Every market's different. Every market's dealing with a different fate. Like every market is so different, and that's the thing. It's what you can learn from someone elsewhere is just
Mhm.
there's tremendous value there, and the group I that I met there and that I've become friends with through this, like I still like from that one little event, like I'm still in
Mhm.
close communication with several of those
That's so
people,
cool.
and they're people that I really look up to. Like people that I
Mhm.
admire their businesses. They're doing amazing things. They're giving back to their communities. They're doing things that I want to be doing. Like even if it's just for a motivational piece, like I find value in that. And I think that's a part of
Yeah.
it. It's like the group that I did meet there and that I still stay connected with. It's kind of our accountability group is what we call it these days. It's kind of what I feel like it's become. But it's like, if I see
Yeah.
Brad up there throwing weights, or if I see, Weaver, sweating his tail off, it's like, it motivates me. I like it. I think it's
Yeah.
good, man. Like, so it's all positive, and we're all, like you said, we're fighting the same battles. And if there's just one piece of advice that'll keep somebody going, this is our dreams. Most of us, it's our dreams to
Mhm.
do this, and it's why I have a firm commitment to protecting it, and why I market as hard as I do. Not because I'm slow, but because I want to make sure I'm always doing this. So
Yeah.
it's the easiest way to put it.
I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and it sounds like I'll see you in a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, man. Are you stoked?
I'm stoked.
Yeah. No,
Maybe.
I was really excited that you were able to come. Sports fan or not, I don't shoot guns a whole bunch, but I was like, sounds like a good time.
Yeah. No, I remember I forget where I was when I read your text, and I because I read it as golf, and you were like, "Well, it's not golf." I'm like, "Yeah, if I had read your text the first time, I would have known it's not golf. I just for some reason assumed it was."
Yeah.
Um, but no, that's yeah, I'm super excited, and obviously, Weaver will be joining us. Who, yeah, he's a beast in the gym. Um, so it would be good to see you guys live.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, I'm just trying to grow my baby muscles. Like I've always been like tall, skinny guy. I grew up playing football and like I was always the scrawniest guy. I started playing like quarterback and then my coach was like, "Nah, kid, you need to go to wide receiver. You're fast." So, I could just never keep weight on. I was always running and it's like just stayed with me through my adult life. I just don't gain weight. I mean, other than,
Yeah.
here nowadays, but
Right.
it's pretty fun, but,
I'm the same way. I I was literally the same exact weight to the 10th of a pound, like, no lie, from college until, a year ago. Like,
really,
one and I'm yeah, it just every time I weighed myself, I weighed the exact same. I didn't fluctuate a single pound,
that's
and
impressive.
which is it's just weird, like, I fluctuated in, like, muscle tone and not, like, I was out of the gym for a few years, um, but it's just I just maintain. I've just always maintained, and then I made a big effort to try to put on some weight, and I got to my goal, and then I changed my diet pretty strict, and then it's like right back. I'm like, oh, god damn it! Like
Yeah,
I was where I wanted to be. I gotta eat more again.
that's the
But it's
hardest
funny,
thing for
like,
me. Like
oh, it's everything that anyone wants. Like, it's all the diet. It's all the food, it's all the like, and I'm not claiming to be a fitness influencer or someone that knows more than the next guy, but I it's so basic, and everyone wants to complicate it and tell you the secret. There is no secret. It's so basic. But where I was going with this is I love the fact that our industry, you're seeing more and more people take this role in being more fit. And I think that's not just our industry. Like, I think, I read an article the other day that Gen Z is like the most in shape generation in a very long time. Um, which I love. Like, I think that's awesome, but our industry, like, notoriously just has had bad eating habits and just generally not in shape because we claim that physical labor is good enough, and it's not.
bro, there's so many
Um,
fat shits in this business. Like I
yeah.
don't know, but I try not to be the judgy type. I really am not. I just look at when I look at someone that is out of shape and unhealthy and generally in poor condition, I just don't align with those values. So I look at it as I want to be in.
Well, you're there's a reduction in respect, and
That's
again,
it.
not to be disrespectful, it just
It shows
like,
you're
if I
undisciplined. It
if
shows that you
yeah,
don't have your
right,
goals right. It shows that you don't even care enough
right,
about yourself. How are you going to care about me? I,
right,
my whole mindset has shifted towards like, okay, it is my responsibility to take care of me. It is I have to prioritize me as
yeah,
number one. There and
yeah,
look, I've clashed. I was in my corporate career. I was global, so I was on a plane all the time, 6 times a
yep,
week. A lot of times, different cities, different states, different
mhm,
countries. It was commonplace for me to go wine and dine customers. If I didn't wine and dine a
mhm,
customer, my CEO would call me like, what are you doing? Like, what's up? Like, are
right.
you not good?"
I'm at the gym.
Yeah. Like, and so now, like, so I've had this complicated, not in a negative way. I've just had this complicated relationship with alcohol too. And now it's just like,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll drink in a social setting. I'm not, like, look, I worked in the North Shore for
mhm,
5 years. Like my boss's place
mhm,
was in Manchester by the Sea. Like we used to have big soirees out there. His house was featured on,
mhm,
This Old House for 3 seasons. And like we would have
yeah,
big lobster boils and like it was all whatever you wanted, like big spreads.
right.
Company culture was just like work hard, play hard.
Eat, drink.
Yeah, eat, drink,
Yeah,
whatever. And so like, like being in that for a long time, it can be tough. And so it's like now I've just see myself as being so just intentional and focused
yeah,
about what my goals are. I have things that I want now. It's like I feel like I've done well enough in life, but there's still more to get. And like there's not
mhm,
to get, but there's more things that I want to have access to. My want to have another house on the other coast, right? But that's not an easy
Yeah.
task. You got to work hard for it. So,
Right.
but it's like I look at things like that
It's
and matter
cool.
a lot.
Yeah, it's cool to see the shift. I think I gave up alcohol for a year just randomly. Um, and I've since like now I saw myself exactly what you said. It's like I just didn't see the benefit of drinking constantly. And it wasn't like I was, I don't want to paint the wrong picture that I was drinking like an obsessive amount, but I just was like, this isn't adding anything to my life. I'm just gonna take a break. And then it became I gamified it. I was like, I wonder how long I can go. And it's like, whoa, a year goes by. My wife reminded me the other day, she was like, it wasn't a full year. You drank a glass of wine on your birthday. I'm like, okay. I was like, whatever.
Why,
Like
why
we're,
is it? Why is it always
semantics.
the ones closest to us that want to pick them?
Oh, she I love her dearly, but she is brutal. Um, but yeah, it's like now I'm at a point where it's, I'm just comfortable. It's like, all right, I'll have a drink when I want to have a drink. It's more intentional. It's not just this like immediate reaction, and I feel totally fine not having a drink.
Yeah, like
But
you're in control. That's what
yeah,
matters, right? Like, and you want to control how you feel. That's been a bigger part of
yeah,
it. Yeah, I mean, I just turned 40, so for me, it's like, yeah, there are real consequences to long night
yeah.
drinking, and I just don't care to feel that way.
Like kids, like your business. It's like I
Yeah.
just yeah.
How many kids do you have? I never asked you that when I met you
Four.
this year. Four boys,
Yeah.
girls, mix.
Girl, boy.
Oh,
8, 6, 3, 1.
you got young kids too. I have a 2.5-year-old, but I also have
Mm,
a 19-year-old in college. So, and
mm.
then my middle guy's 11. So I had one in every decade.
What a spread. Jeez.
It keeps you young,
That
man.
might even be different generations.
It keeps you young. I just hope they're going to be
Yeah,
friends at some point.
I
Not all
know.
different
Yeah,
women, not all different women, just two women. So,
yeah.
yeah,
No, I wasn't even gonna ask. But yeah, I mean, 4, right, like, they're all 2 years apart, essentially. Um, but, I mean, my three-year-old, she is those COVID babies, man. I haven't met one single three-year-old that is not a psychopath. And she is just insane.
my two,
But
my
I
two
I,
and a
I
half,
lo- yeah,
my 2.5-year-old is damn near genius, and I'm only crediting like not me, definitely not me. Something to do with COVID for sure. The shot
mm.
was good for him, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
So
Thanks for making my baby a genius.
I'll take it, whatever
Uh,
works. But
well,
man, that's super cool.
Brad, yeah, I appreciate you being on. I appreciate you taking the time, and looking forward to seeing you in a couple weeks, man.
Man, it was a privilege. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to spending some more time with you up there. Um, no pressure, by the way. If like I was going to book my flight today after we spoke, because I think I'm just going to come in. I think I'm going to come into PVD and then drop in from wherever we are. But I know I had talked about maybe jumping up to Wesley, I guess is where 45WO is. But I don't know if you have plans, what you got going on the next day, because I know the event like has a dinner attached to some fireworks and a concert. So there's a country singer that's singing. Um,
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to attend all that.
I was
Not
just
with four.
I was just telling
Yeah,
you, it's like you have the event.
let's fo- let's follow up via text with me, Mike and I after we hop off here,
Sounds good.
and then we'll solidify it.
Yeah, sounds good. No worries.
Cool.
I think it's Tyler
All right, dude.
Childers. Yeah.
What'd you say? Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's him. I don't listen to a ton of country, just enough. So
I would say the same. Even if I did listen to his music, I wouldn't know who he is, or I wouldn't know his name.
about the same. So awesome, man. Well,
Cool,
thanks
man.
again, man. Go get after it for the rest of the day. We'll catch up soon.